This is gonna blow your mind. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. Today we're talking about travel, but not the glamorous kind you see on Instagram. We're diving deep into the don't even think about it list of countries. You know, the ones where maybe, just maybe, your vacation could turn into a really, really bad time. We're talking about the top 10 countries where, as a UK citizen, you might not be welcomed with open arms in 2024. Think political unrest, crazy laws, and even ongoing conflicts. So buckle up, grab your metaphorical passports, because you won't need a real one for these destinations. And let's jump right into the list of places you definitely don't want to book your next getaway to. First up, we have North Korea, a country that's basically shrouded in mystery, and probably a whole lot of surveillance. I mean, we've all heard the stories, right? The strict entry policies are just the tip of the iceberg. Imagine a world where smiling at the wrong time could get you in trouble. Okay, maybe I'm exaggerating a little, but seriously, the government there is watching everything, and I mean everything. They've got rules for everything you can imagine, and then some. Trust me, you wouldn't want to accidentally break one of those rules. Think about it. You can't exactly call your BFF from Kim Jong-un's backyard and tell them about your day. The internet? Forget about it. It's like stepping back in time, but not in a cool vintage way. More like a Big Brother is always watching kind of way. So yeah, North Korea, you're better off sticking to the documentaries on this one. Next up is Iran, a country with a rich history and culture, but also some serious political tension with the UK. Now, I'm all for respecting different cultures, but when it comes to Iran, the risks for UK citizens are just too high right now. We're talking about strict Islamic laws that can be pretty shocking if you're not used to them. And I'm not just talking about the dress code, although that's definitely something to be aware of. We're talking about restrictions on everything from alcohol consumption to public displays of affection. And then there's the whole strained diplomatic ties thing. This can make it tricky for UK citizens to get visas. And it also means you might not have the same protections as you would in other countries. And right now, Iran is just not the place for UK citizens to be venturing off to. The risks are just too great, and your safety should always come first. Okay guys, Yemen is no joke. This is where things get really real. We're not talking about cultural differences or strict laws here. We're talking about a full-blown humanitarian crisis. Imagine a country ravaged by war, where famine is a daily reality, and diseases spread like wildfire. The conflict in Yemen has been going on for years, and it's only getting worse. There's widespread violence, bombings, and armed groups roaming around. Trust me, this is not the kind of place you want to get caught in the crossfire. And even if you somehow manage to avoid the fighting, the lack of basic necessities would make life incredibly difficult. It breaks my heart to think about the people who are suffering in Yemen right now. So let's leave Yemen off our travel list and instead, maybe focus on how we can help the people who are caught in this terrible situation. Chapter 4. Somalia Pirates Not Paradise. Okay, let's be real. When you hear Somalia, you probably think pirates, right? And while the pirate situation has improved a little in recent years, Somalia is still one of the most dangerous countries in the world. We're talking decades of civil war, terrorist groups like Al-Shabaab running rampant, and a complete lack of infrastructure. Imagine a country where there's no real government, no police force you can rely on, and danger lurking around every corner. Kidnappings, bombings, and attacks are tragically common, and there's literally nowhere safe for tourists. And the reality is, Somalia is not a place for adventure. It's a place of immense suffering, and it's best to stay far, far away. Chapter 5. Libya, where militias rule. Libya, guys, Libya. It's like the poster child for political instability. Imagine a country where different armed groups or militias are basically in control, vying for power and causing chaos wherever they go. Ever since the fall of Gaddafi back in 2011, Libya has been stuck in this cycle of violence and unrest. There's a lack of central authority, which means there's no one to enforce the law, protect citizens, or guarantee your safety if things go south. Kidnappings, bombings, and random acts of violence are a constant threat, and tourists are often targeted. So, unless you're a seasoned war correspondent or a diplomat with a security detail, I'd say steer clear of Libya for the time being. Your safety is paramount, and there are plenty of other incredible destinations out there that won't leave you fearing for your life. Chapter 6. Afghanistan, a country held hostage. Afghanistan, a country that's been through so much and sadly continues to suffer. With the Taliban back in control, the situation there is incredibly volatile, especially for women. Imagine a country where your basic human rights are stripped away, where education and freedom of expression are suppressed, and fear dictates every aspect of daily life. The Taliban's rule has brought about a humanitarian crisis, with food shortages, economic collapse, and a mass exodus of people desperate to escape the oppression. And for foreigners, especially those from the UK, the risks are astronomical. You become a target, a potential bargaining chip in a much larger political game. Kidnappings are a real threat, and the lack of any real law enforcement means you're completely on your own if something goes wrong. And right now, Afghanistan is not a place where anyone, especially UK citizens, can expect to be safe. Chapter 7. Iraq, outside Kurdistan. A land scarred by conflict. Iraq, a country synonymous with conflict, with images of war and destruction seared into our collective memory. While things have improved somewhat in recent years, especially in the Kurdistan region, the rest of Iraq remains a dangerous and unpredictable place. We're talking about a country still grappling with the aftermath of years of war, where terrorism is a constant threat, and infrastructure lies in ruins. Outside of Kurdistan, which has its own autonomous government and security forces, the Iraqi government is still struggling to maintain control and provide basic security for its citizens. And for foreigners, especially those from the UK, the risks are amplified. Kidnappings, bombings, and attacks are a constant worry, and there's no guarantee of safety, even in seemingly secure areas. South Sudan, the world's youngest nation, born out of hope but tragically marred by conflict and suffering. Imagine a country where civil war has ravaged the land, where ethnic violence tears communities apart, and where humanitarian crises are the norm. South Sudan is a place where basic necessities like food, water, and healthcare are scarce, where millions live in fear and uncertainty, and where the future seems bleak. The conflict has displaced millions, creating a massive refugee crisis and leaving a trail of trauma and devastation in its wake. And for outsiders, especially those from the UK, South Sudan is simply too dangerous to even consider visiting. The risks are too high, the security situation too volatile, and the potential for getting caught in the crossfire too great. Venezuela, once a thriving South American nation known for its beauty and oil wealth, has tragically descended into chaos and despair. Imagine a country where the economy has completely collapsed, where hyperinflation has rendered the currency practically worthless, and where basic goods and services are scarce. Venezuela is facing a humanitarian crisis of epic proportions, with widespread food shortages, medicine shortages, and a healthcare system on the brink of collapse. People are struggling to survive, forced to scavenge for food, and flee the country in search of a better life. The political climate is incredibly volatile, with widespread corruption, protests, and violence. The government is cracking down on dissent, and human rights abuses are rampant. And for foreigners, especially UK citizens, Venezuela is simply not a safe place to be. You become an easy target for crime, kidnapping, and extortion. The Central African Republic, a country often overlooked yet grappling with immense challenges and dangers. Imagine a nation ravaged by poverty, where armed groups control vast swaths of territory, and where violence is a tragic part of daily life. The Central African Republic is embroiled in a complex and brutal conflict, fueled by religious and ethnic tensions, competition for resources, and a lack of governance. The result is a humanitarian catastrophe, with millions in need of assistance, widespread displacement, and a complete breakdown of law and order. Armed groups operate with impunity, terrorizing civilians, committing atrocities, and making it nearly impossible to rebuild shattered lives and communities. And for outsiders, the Central African Republic is simply too dangerous to even contemplate visiting. The risks of kidnapping, armed robbery, and violence are simply too high. And there you have it, folks. The top 10 countries where UK citizens might not be welcomed with open arms in 2024. Remember, this isn't about judging these nations or their people. It's about prioritizing your safety and making informed travel decisions. The world is a vast and incredible place, full of amazing cultures and experiences waiting to be discovered. So, before you book your next adventure, do your research, check travel advisories, and make sure you're not putting yourself in harm's way. Stay safe and see you in the next video.